What's up, guys? Welcome back to Wrestle Wellbeing. I'm your host, Jim, and today we have a brand new episode of the Unseen Battles where we dive into our guests' history and journey through professional wrestling, and we also will dive into their mental health struggles, battles, but also their triumphs. But before we get into today's guest, I want to talk about the Hot Tag Foundation. So for those of you that have seen the channel before, you know what I'm going to say. For those of you that have been here for the first time, first of all, welcome. Hopefully you enjoy this episode. I know I will for certain. Make sure you give that this video a thumbs up. Make sure you share it with your friends. And also, give us a subscribe. We're hoping to reach 100 subscribers by the end of the year. If we do, one of my fantastic guests will be receiving one of these shirts that I will commission myself. So, the Hot Tag Foundation is a non-profit organisation based here in the UK that aims to share wrestling with children across Britain, particularly those in need. The way they do this is by collecting donations of wrestling items such as toys, merchandise, and other wrestling-related goods, personalising and packaging the donations, distributing them to children and young people. Mostly happens around Christmas time and also at events, sometimes in partnership with hospitals or other charities to reach children undergoing treatment. So in essence, guys, the Hot Tag Foundation leverages the appeal of professional wrestling to bring joy and a sense of real-life superheroes to children. I'm going to play a very short clip. It's about 2 minutes long. And on this video is also a list of the fantastic wrestling companies up and down the UK with a little QR code in the bottom right-hand corner for you guys to check out after this video, because it's going to be one hell of an episode. So we'll see you in 2 minutes, guys. Ready for turning red, steel claws of vengeance awaken the dead. The silence is shattered, the battle drums roar. We march through the ashes, we're ready for war. No mercy, no chains, no fear in our veins. The fire ignites, we'll never be tamed. Ready for war, the thunder will break, fury unleashed, the earth's gonna shake. Raise the black flag, let the demons soar. We're forged in the chaos, ready for war. The wolves are howling, the night's closing in. A blade in the darkness where shadows begin. The weak will crumble, their cries fade away. We stand in the inferno, we'll never obey. No mercy, no chains, no fear in our veins. The fire ignites, we'll never be tamed. Ready for war, the thunder will break, fury unleashed, the earth's gonna shake. Raise the black flag, let the demons soar. We're forged in the chaos, ready for war. So there we are, guys. That is the Hot Tag Foundation with all the fantastic wrestling companies up and down the UK. Make sure you go check those out after this episode. But now on to today's episode of the Unseen Battles. I'm joined by one of the most gifted wrestlers on the UK wrestling scene today. Ladies and gentlemen, you may not recognise him because he's not actually in character today. It is, ladies and gentlemen, Axl The Klown. Axl, thank you so much for joining me, mate.
Not a problem, pal. Not a problem at all. How's your day been?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad. How was yours?
Same. Ditto. Not too bad. Not too bad at all.
Fantastic. But so obviously we were speaking before we came on stream. First thing, because one of our very good friends, Liam from Magica Wrestling, asked me the other day is Axl going to be in character? And obviously, you've decided to come on not in character. Can you just let the ladies and gentlemen know why?
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously, when you approached me to be on an episode, which I'm very thankful for, with it being based around mental health and everything like that, it's to me, I think it's very important to make it come across in a very serious way, because I think mental health is a very serious matter that doesn't necessarily, it's more getting so now, but it doesn't necessarily get the support it needs or the funding, especially on no fault to their own. The NHS, they're absolutely flooded at the minute, but a lot of the funding isn't going to that part of well-being and stuff like that. So I thought, it's very, not that it wouldn't be difficult, but I just felt that Axl wouldn't be able to get this matter across in a serious way. So I thought, let's do it as the person behind the mask sort of thing, because Axl doesn't deal with mental health. He's a character. He's not real, and mental health is real. So I'm stepping forward to do the job.
Absolutely, mate. Really do appreciate that. And obviously, like you put it perfectly there, you are the man behind the mask. And obviously, as we know, with mental health, for a lot of people, they try to hide their mental health behind a mask sort of thing. So I really do appreciate you deciding to step forward behind that mask. So obviously, guys, if you don't know who Axl the Klown is, let me just let you know that if you look at the QR code just above my head, and if you scan that QR code, it will actually lead you to Axl's Instagram page, which is quite cool. So make sure you go give Axl a follow. Make sure you send him some love from myself here at Wrestle Wellbeing. So first of all, Axl, I'm going to ask you the first question, and it's always the same. What initially drew you to professional wrestling, bud? Is it something that you've loved since you were a child, or is it something that you discovered later on in life?
So I have very vague memories of being a lot younger and coming across wrestling by accident. So I remember vaguely in primary school, people having some trading cards, and because I still am, but I had Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh and all that good stuff back in the time. And I was like, oh, what are these? Like shiny, drew me straight to it. I'm like a magpie. So it was like, oh, it's WWE. It's there's all these wrestlers, stuff like Undertaker and Triple H, and I was like, oh, like, they look cool. And then I remember trying to find it on TV, and I managed to find an episode. And I was like, oh, this is cool. This is interesting. And then nothing, as a kid with ADHD, so I moved on to the next thing. I was like, now I'm comfortable. Probably a Pokemon game came out, and that was my life for the next year. And then it wasn't until secondary school, and this is the moment that I sort of say is the catalyst of it all. I went round to one of my friends' houses after school, as we normally do, and he was like, "Oh, I'm going to watch this. I'm going to watch this pay-per-view, the Money in the Bank pay-per-view." And I was like, "Wasn't Money in the Bank? I'm lying to you. Elimination Chamber pay-per-view." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then he put it on, and I was like, "Oh, this is that wrestling stuff." And I remember very, very vague, vividly. It was the year that CM Punk had the spinner, and it was in an Elimination Chamber match against. He had Jericho in there. I think Miz was in there. Ziggler, Kofi. I think Truth might have been in there as well. It was a very weird sort of main event scene for that title at that time. And that was the first pay-per-view I watched. The first match I watched back in a long time. And then I started watching it every week because I found it on Sky, and I was like, we're going to record this, get it recorded every week. YouTube clips, back when you had to watch matches in like 55 different parts on YouTube because they could only upload 5 minutes of a match. And then that year's WrestleMania, where it was it was Sheamus and Bryan where he lost it in like 8 seconds, and then Punk and Jericho was on that one as well. And then the match that I thought still is one of my favorite matches of all time. End of an era, Triple H, Undertaker, Hell in a Cell with Shawn Michaels as special guest ref. To me, that is storytelling in a ring told to its absolute best. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. And I've been a fan ever since.
Absolutely fantastic, word. So, when you first started watching, who were the wrestlers in particular that sort of like drew you in?
So definitely remember really enjoying CM Punk at that time. I think everyone was very hot on Punk at that time. Kane was another one. Really enjoyed like Ziggler and stuff as well. Taker was still about. Cena as well. Mainly, it was like Punk and Kane, I'd say, that really drew me in at that point because I was like, well, one's got tattoos and looks really cool, and the other one's a massive freak with a big mask on, and he looks insane. And then, those two were the ones that proper drew me in, and then when you start putting in like, oh, CM Punk versus on YouTube, and you'd get all sorts of like all his indie stuff, and that's how I discovered indie wrestling, and like his Ring of Honor days. And I remember there was a triple threat he did with Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio. I can't remember where it was, but I was like, well, I remember Rey Mysterio and all that. Like, how did this not happen in WWE? And then that's the thing that made me go, oh, so there's different levels to this. It's not just like there's only one place you can wrestle and that's it. I found TNA, all the indies at that point, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, Ring of Honor, all that good stuff. And then, but yeah, that was about it really.
Fantastic, bud. Got a comment from someone that's a regular on the show, Luis De Silva, or Lunatic Louise on his Instagram, who says, Axl is one of the most entertaining wrestlers I've seen. His work with the Freak Show is fantastic. Thank you so much for your comment there, Louise.
Thank you very much. I don't take compliments very well, but I'm very thankful. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, obviously, you said you started getting into wrestling, but obviously, as you just mentioned, what was it that made you decide I want to try this sort of like as a job sort of thing?
I'm still trying to make it a job. So, like, very, very, like, because I'd watched it and watched it and watched it and watched it. And then we started our own background federation, as everyone does, where we were just idiots and we were just chucking each other about. But I remember most of the time it was like we had all the toy belts as well, and they were our championships, and you could legit like take people's toy belts home with you and stuff like that. But I very remember like we used to do it in school as well when we could get away with it. We used to go round to people's houses and we'd do a couple of matches. It was so daft and stupid, like legit kicking the shit out of each other for hours because we didn't know. We didn't know what we'd just seen it and just gone, well, this is this, and not knowing to pull your punches a little bit, or this is how you do it safely. We were just idiots. And then obviously grew out of that, but still watching it constantly. And then I remember I went to a ICW show with one of my friends from college, and we went to that. And I got speaking. One of his university flatmates, his partner was a wrestler, and I remember talking to him about like, what do you mean you're a wrestler? How do how do you get into it? And he was saying, there is places around. You have to look for them. Go on Google, like try and find a place and contact someone. So that's what I did, and then ended up finding another mutual friend that did it in Doncaster, and I was like, where do you do this? And he was like, well, come to one of my shows in Doncaster and we'll have a little look. And went and had a look. and was like, yeah, this is meant, taught some of the wrestlers that that is weird to say that those people I spoke to at that local little indie helped me very early on. And I will always, I'll never forget that, how much they stuck out for me and, gave me advice. So I went to a school in Rotherham, EBW. It's not around anymore. That's where I got started. There was me and someone else I knew from Doncaster that went on the train, and we went to the first ever session. And then there was one other guy on the beginners, like I say beginners course. It was like the beginners session that we did. And then ever since then, one of the other guy that we met there became one of my closest friends, and we did a lot of work together. The other one sizzled out, but it was amazing.
Fantastic, mate. So, can you describe your first training experience? What was it like when you first stepped into the ring, and what was it like when you first took that bump?
Painful. No, it wasn't that bad, to be honest. It was daunting. Like, I think with anything, you have a lot of anxiety, like the butterfly feeling in your stomach when you're going to do it. But I think that's quite a normal feeling, and I don't think people should be scared of that feeling. It just means that there's a level of excitement to it, maybe, of you really want to do this and you're here now, so let's have a go. That first session, like, there was a load of people there that had been training and do the shows and stuff, so it was a little bit daunting in that aspect, because I always refer to myself as an extroverted introvert, where I can cope quite well with a lot of people, but I much prefer being in a little, like, with less people. I don't cope well too much with, for a long period of time, with a lot of people. Let's say like a couple of days with a lot of people, I'm like, yeah, this is me done. So I did the session. I think we went through some stretches, and then I think we went through some, like, learning how to bump on, like, on the crash mats out of the ring while the main session was happening. And then got the chance to run the ropes at the end of the session, and I think we did a couple of bumps in the ring without a mat as well. Again, it feels so unnatural to throw yourself down in a way where you're not protecting yourself, and it is a protected fall, but, like, in a way that it's just, you've just got to kick your legs up and just go, which is, that probably took a while to get all my bumps down. That was one that took a while to get sorted. Running the ropes, it came quite naturally, which is weird. It came quite natural to me doing that. But yeah, it must have done something to me, because I've stuck at it, and I've been far too long now.
Absolutely, mate. So, I'm gonna have to address it because she keeps messaging. Liam from Magic Wrestling has actually commented. Says, we're not going to talk about the cool shit Axl rocking. I were going to get to it, Liam. Calm down. Obviously, as we can see, it is the Firefly of Bray Wyatt. And speaking to Axl just before we came on, our joint favourite wrestler, I think we could probably say, mate.
Yes, yeah. Bray is without a doubt my favorite wrestler of all time, and he will always be favorite wrestler of all time. Like, massive inspiration going through it. Yeah, it's such a shame that he got taken from us when he did, and I was really intrigued to see where this new version of Bray was going to go. There was a lot of rumors that he was going to start working with Cody, which I thought that would be brilliant. Seeing And then obviously seeing how the Wyatt Six would have developed with him still here, leading the charge with stuff, as opposed to Bo. But not saying that Bo's done a bad job with it. Oh, I think he's done as best as he can do with it. Obviously, the amount of stress and feelings you must have picking up your brother's work that he's worked on for all his life, pretty much, and trying to do it justice, and I can only imagine the amount of stress and, you know, anxieties that he must go through, and just constant. I want to use the word grief, but not necessarily in the terms of like feeling grief, but like having to constantly be reminded of that person so soon on as well. Because I think they did one of the sit down things that he did where it was Bo sat across from Uncle Howdy. And then there was that line that hit, I think it hit a lot of people really hard, where it's like, how did it feel when your brother died? And they sort of delved down that route of all that. And I thought that was very, very good. But yeah, I've loved everything Bray's done. I think he was a very creative man. And I assume from, because I watched the documentary that they brought out when he passed, which was an emotional roller coaster in its own right. But like, I think Triple H said that his own worst enemy was himself, because he would want to pitch these ideas and do these things, and Triple H was like, we can't physically do that. Like, we can't do this, and he'd get, you know, just because he was so passionate and just was like, this will work, and wanting to do this and that. It's just a shame the amount of like eyes on the product it's got when he's gone, because I mean he's got a scare house at Universal Horror Nights. I mean, it's not everyone gets that, and it's crazy to see how far they've gone with that. So I mean, for me, that's what I want. I want to be known for that side, that creative side and stuff like that. I know most of the time I'm just a daft clown that does stuff, but it's not just me going out and making a fool out of myself. There's a lot of thinking that goes into it of, you know, why would I do that? And then there's a lot of referencing to normal, like actual circus acts and actual clowning and actual clowning school tapes that I've studied. And there's a Barnum and Bailey clown video that I've studied and studied and studied. Like, it's an old, I think it's from like this, it must be from the 80s or 70s or something like that, but I've studied that no end, because I want it to feel authentic, like there is a clown that's just ended up in a wrestling ring, as opposed to this is a wrestler dressed up as a clown doing clown things. Yeah, it gets very deep and very convoluted, where some people go, why have you put that much thought into it? But for me, it's an expression. It's expressing, like, I've always loved entertaining. Did drama in school, and you know, I've done drama in primary school. Went on to do music in like secondary school and stuff like that, and playing in bands, and you know, constantly always writing like little scripts and stories and stuff, and you know, constantly thinking of stuff. And wrestling is just a really nice outlet to do that. Yeah, you only get like, there's a lot of, you know, 10-15 minutes maybe to tell that story and express what you want, but you've got so much control over your own social media, especially as an independent worker. It's your job, in open brackets, to push yourself and see yourself as a brand, as a business, and you're the one that it puts out what you need there, especially in quieter periods. I've been a bit not on the ball with it at the moment because, like I said to you earlier, I've just moved gaff, so that's been quite stressful. But it's you know, I've not had too much work. Like, I've got a couple of gigs coming up at the end of this month into next month. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the pipeline that we are working on. So there will be a lot of Axl the Klown and Freak Show content to come, and maybe a certain individual might or maybe already joined, but I don't know. So we'll leave it there.
Fantastic one. Got a comment here from another avid viewer, Sledge Bro, who says Axl is an absolute legend inside of the ring and a greater friend outside of the ring. Thank you very much for that comment there, Sledge Bro. Appreciate that.
Love Sledge Bro. What a man. What a dude Sledges is. you know what? I'm going to talk about Sledge Bro for a bit now.
Go ahead.
So Sledge Bro trains at PPW, where I now reside, and because it's around the corner, it's convenience more than anything. Like, I always think you should always go and train at other places and show your face, which I do want to do, but life gets in the way sometimes, and you've got responsibilities, and the real world comes and smacks you sometimes. So Pursuit is very, very easy to get to for me, so that's where I go, and I love being there. Like, I think Liam Slater is the best coach I've had in this game. He's just got a great mind, and when you've got access to people like Leon Slater and Kid Lycos 2, Nathan Black, Gene Money. We've got BA Rose on Saturday. We've had Lou Jacobs in for a couple of days this week. Like, the amount of names and talent that's at the top that is there and will spend time to talk to you and help you and train you, it's absolutely incredible. But I've met Sledge there after seeing him at I think I must have seen him at a show and then seeing him there. But he puts in a hell of a graft, and I've got so much respect for people that put the work in and generally, will listen to advice you've got for them, and will generally be like, yes, I will listen to you, I will take that on board. Like, anyone can come into the ring, take a couple of bumps and go, yeah, I'm done, and then you'll never see him again. That happened so much when like early years of my career. People would come in and then you'd never see him again. But Sledge has stuck through it, and he's a great kid. Like, I remember once we there was an open session on a Thursday afternoon, and Sledge was there, and he weren't really doing anything. So I grabbed him. I was like, right, come on, we'll go and do a match. Completely off the cuff, and I just called it to him in the ring. I was like, let's just work, let's just call, let's just, and he went through it all the way. So massive props to Sledge Bro. Sorry
Absolutely,
about that.
mate.
That's just how my brain works.
That's all right, man. Absolutely, mate. Massive shout out to Sledge Bro. Thanks so much for the comment, bud. So, obviously, you speak about PPW, mate, and Liam Slater. What's the best advice that Liam's ever given you?
That is a question. I think for me is nothing is too much for me in the aspect of my gimmick and stuff like that. Like, don't be scared to do too much. As long as you're going in it 100% and with a lot of with the full confidence and stuff, like, nothing's too much, especially for a gimmick that I've got, which is it does come across quite daunting in the aspect of it, because there's a lot of fourth wall breaking that Axl does. There's a lot of not norms that Axl does, so you couldn't necessarily put him in a position where it'd be easy to book like a normal wrestler in that position. So, but yeah, he's like, just don't. There's nothing that really you shouldn't be putting on hold for me. So, I think that's stuck with me quite a lot. And there's normally just some little nagging things which are just bad habits that I carry on doing that he tells me not to do, but I can't help but not do them. So I'm working on.
Brilliant, mate. So, what would you say have been some of the most memorable moments and matches that have been in your career so far?
There's a couple that I did before the Axl the Klown gimmick. So I got very early on in my career. I think I was only 2-3 years in at that point. I got the opportunity to go work in Italy, which was amazing. That was very cool. Winning first championship, or I think that's always people's fondest memories, because I was in a group called the Young and Reckless, and we were generally all mates as well. Like, we hung out outside of wrestling a lot. We trained together a lot. We traveled a lot. So winning those was a big, you've done it. not in that aspect, but you've reached this level of, you know, you wanted to go out there, you wanted to wrestle, you've done that. What's the next step? Okay, maybe get on other shows. I've done that. Traveled. Okay, I've done that. Championship. Right, I've done that. So that was that one, and then COVID happened, so there wasn't much that happened there. What else have I done over here? Wrestle in the Axl gimmick. I went out to Spain, Barcelona with PPW, which was great. That was a big moment for me because we took the full freak show out. Me, freaking Jim. That was really fun. Won the PPW title, but that was around the time where I was getting quite a lot of, you know, opportunities. Like I'd done a couple of appearances for Rise at that point. I worked with Man Like Derice at a Spectrum show at Pursuit in their facility that they hired out. So that was quite a good little moment for me, working someone on that caliber. I got to work Leon Slater very early on as well. So again, he's a completely different beast now, but that was also a very good learning opportunity. We won the belts at Tidal, which was really fun. Again, it's another accomplishment. It's one accomplishment itself, winning titles at the place that you train, where they put shows on, but going out to a completely different promotion where you haven't got any history, and being trusted to, you know, carry some championships is very, very humbling to myself. That was a nice moment to share that with Jim and Freaky as well. So yeah, there's some of the main ones, and just the amount of friends that I've made that are surprisingly close, because I think it's good to have that support network. And I've got friends for life that I've met through wrestling, which I would never have probably have been friends with without wrestling, which is really strange because, like, Jim's one of my closest friends, and I always refer to him as my wrestling dad, not just because, you know, of the age of he could legit be my dad. But, you know, we have that, Axl and Jim have that father-son sort of dynamic, when we do wrestle together. But like, I met him when he was 50 and I was 20. I might not even been 20. I might have been 19, 20. And that you would never have, that those paths would have never have crossed outside of wrestling. So I'm very thankful for wrestling to be able to have a good group of friends that I have in life, basically.
Fantastic, mate. So obviously, as you mentioned, you've won quite a few titles in your career. How would you prepare for such a big match, both mentally and physically?
It's hard because it's, you know, you're getting told, "Are you doing this?" And at the end of the day, as I say this to a lot of people that get a little bit too stressed and anxious, I'm like, look, it's just a prop at the end of the day, a championship. Yes, it means that you've done really well and it's an opportunity and it's a bit of a thank you from the promoter, all this and that. And the fans, obviously, the support also helps with that side of it. But mainly, it's a prop for you to elevate yourself a little bit more. So for those sort of matches, I remember the tag title match that we had. That was quite the original one, where I won it with the Young and Reckless. We worked someone that I was living with at the time, and David DeVille. And to us, those two guys were extremely in shape. They were really, really good at what they did, and that was extremely daunting for us. And I remember a bit of tough love from their side of it, like, you best bring it, or else, you know, you're not winning them. Basically saying, if you do shit, we will make sure that you don't win. We will just keep you down. But it's sort of, you, for me now at this point, it's like a normal match. Like, you do get jitters and stuff of, oh my, like, oh, there's a lot to remember, and oh, you know, what if it goes wrong? What if they don't enjoy it? What if they don't like us winning it? Which is the bigger worry I have of, what if there's no reaction for us winning it? But I think that just drives you to go, yeah, I need to do it. But for me, it's so easy because of the actual gimmick now, and I have a mask that I wear with it. Once that mask's on, I'm not Alex anymore. I'm Axl the Klown. He's just going out there. That's his thing. That's for him to deal with. So I've molded myself in a way to allow myself to be in a situation where I can go, yeah, I don't have to worry about the stresses and the anxieties anymore because that's a different character doing that. So I think a lot of the time as well, it's just making sure you've got the match itself, and a lot of the time we're calling and talking to each other in the match anyway to remind, even if we know what we're doing and both parties are completely sure, I will still call because it helps me remember as well. I think having not a good relationship, but talking to the people you're going to work is very helpful as well, because it's, especially if it's someone you've never met before and you're working with them. Luckily, every title I've won, I've known the people, so it's not been as daunting. I say I was more nervous working Derice than I was working an Italian or the Spanish lads, or winning any title, because I knew at that, like, of the rise that he was on. For me, it was like, right, you need to sort of. It was more of a prove myself at that point, more of a battle on me, and I was like, I don't know how he is. I've never spoke to him. What if we don't get on? You know, blah 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 blah. I've never really worked anyone where I'm like, we don't get on. But he's one of the nicest blokes in wrestling. Like, he was so nice. He was like, we'd gone through everything, called everything in the ring as well, so we could remember stuff. We did stuff on the fly, and it just reassures myself that I'm like, yeah, you are better than you think you are in your head. And I think everyone does that with everything that they do. In life, it's like, you think you're a bit naff, but then, it's the way that people generally see you and go, no, it's sometimes I have to remind myself that I'm not shit. I'm all right at what I do.
Definitely, bud. So obviously you mentioned that you worked a couple shows overseas. Has there ever been a problem with like a language barrier at all with people that you work with, or has it been quite decent?
Overall, surprisingly decent. I think we're quite lucky in an aspect of most of the world speaks English as a second language to a level, so it's easy enough. The guy worked in Italy. I don't think he wrestles anymore, but he spoke very, very good English. And just a couple of words that they used for different things. So, as I would say, the corner, I was calling it, like, doing my comeback, being like, yeah, and I put you in the corner. And he was very confused by the term corner, as he referred to it as an angle. And I was like, that does make more sense. And in Spain, we got put with Lakeo and Marty. Marty spoke brilliant English, but Lakeo struggled a lot. Like, that was probably the biggest language barrier we've ever come across. But again, wrestling's quite a universal language where I remembered his spots, but even if I couldn't, I could read what he wanted me to do at that moment anyway. There was quite a fun moment in that, because the match sort of breaks down towards the end, and one of their guys comes in with a steel chair to sort of get me, and I'm just in corner, and I've got this Spanish bloke just shouting at me in Spanish, and I think Axel's sat going, I don't know what you're telling me. I'm panicking. What do you want me to do? Because I can't understand you. But no, like, I think, again, we were quite lucky with that experience because the crowd were up for it. Like, even though they couldn't really understand what we were saying, I think there's a lot of, again, wrestling's universal at the end of the day. Like, none of the moves are different in different languages. They're still picking you up and putting you down. Like, it's quite easy to understand. I've not been put where I've been necessarily, like, if I was to go and work with someone that didn't really speak English, that's something that I'm quite that's a daunting thought. But again, it's something that I will probably be able to deal with.
Definitely, mate. And So when you started donning the Axl character, obviously the mask and the whole get up, what was sort of like the best and possibly as a bit, so like what was your best reaction from a crowd, and then have you faced any controversy? Has there been any problems?
Not really. I think it took a while to sort of take off. So some of the earlier outside PPW shows I did as Axl, people were a bit confused with it because for a while I didn't have a mask before. It was full face paint for a while before. Again, the crowd a little bit like, what is this? I don't think it was until I put on the mask and I started talking and having a bit of a different swagger to him, where the crowd sort of started liking me, I guess is the term. I remember a moment there was a match we did against the Lancadors at Tidal, and whether or not it was because half the crowd were Lancadors that I took up all the seats, and then half the fans were the normal Tidal regulars, and they very much wanted us to win, was a moment that was the reason they were loud. But it was the show before. I remember I'd gone down because one of the guys I travel with, Jay Vertigo from Hack and Slash, they were wrestling the Lancadors on that show before, and we'd gone down because I was watching and we were in with Tidal anyway. I remember being like, "Shall we push this tag tournament that we're doing?" And I'll come out. I've got my mask. I'll come out and get in the ring and be like, "I'm ready for my match." I think Ace Matthews was hosting, and I was like, "Shall we do something?" He's like, "Yeah, definitely." And there was one moment because I didn't have an entrance or anything. I just walked out. Like I had a Bray Wyatt shirt on. I just had my mask, jeans and stuff, and the crowd. I remember that was one of the moments I was like, "Damn!" Like I've done nothing, and you're all so excited. Like this is mental. And then again, when we won the tag belts at Tidal, I think at that point we sort of won the parish crowd over. So yeah, that was fun. We got quite a big reaction in Spain as well, but I think it was more of the awe of it, of being like, wow, this is different. Like, oh, interesting. Yeah, and then like any shows now where it's just like local, like Planet. I've got Planet on Sunday. I've been in some capacity been at every Planet show, whether I've been wrestling or behind the scenes stuff. It's just it's very strange if they're quiet, and they won't be quiet by the time I'm done. Like whether they're booing or cheering, like that's my job at the end of the day to make a reaction out of people. So normally, if they start quiet, they'll get loud.
Fantastic, mate. So, what would you say have been some of the biggest challenges that you've faced in your career so far, aside from mental health?
A lot of nagging sort of injuries and stuff like that. So I won the pursuit title. I'd rolled my ankle early on in the match, which was a very annoying and is minging to watch on the footage because it does a full like bah. It's awful. So that was annoying, and luckily it was at Christmas, I think, so there was no, I could take a couple of weeks off with that. That's a constant nagging thing that happens quite a lot, where I just will nearly roll it and panic a little bit. Um, I got concussion on one of the shows as well. That was probably the worst injury I've had. After an 11-hour stint in A&E, sat with a concussion, not being able to fall asleep is awful. And again, I don't. If I hadn't have watched that match back, I wouldn't have remembered it. Like I couldn't have told you what would have happened unless I'd watched it back, which is quite scary. And concussions should be taken very seriously. And then I've got there's something up with my elbow that probably won't go away, but yeah, it's mainly just stupid little injuries that happen by accident on the fly. Like, yeah, it's just daft. The things that hurt you are not the things that should hurt you. Like, I could get flung off the top rope and I'd be fine, but I'll walk a bit funny getting in the ring and I'll roll my ankle and I'll be out. You know what I mean? It's always the stupid stuff that gets you.
It always seems to be the self-inflicted injuries that are the worst as well.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So, mate. So we've got a couple of Instagram questions, and then we'll go into the mental health side of things, bud.
Yeah.
Both questions are from Liam from Magical Wrestling. So thank you, Liam, for sending the questions. First question is, how's Freaky Felicia doing?
Freaky's doing really good. So for those that don't know, Freaky got a neck injury 2 years ago now. Like pretty severe. Like, it was just one of those. We think it was like a nagging pain that had been just waiting for the moment for it to get a bit too full, and then it's overspurtled. So she took time out and she was doing a lot of physio with her neck, putting hell of an effort in, like lots and lots of blood, sweat, and tears, a lot of tears with it, to get it back to a standard. But she's been doing circus as well, which has really helped strengthen that neck, because it's not bone damage, it's just muscle and stuff around the vertebrae which is causing the issues. So we were quite lucky that there was nothing broken and we can just build the muscle up to protect it a little bit more. So yeah, she's been back training now for a good couple of months, getting those bumps in again, and gradually getting ready for a return at some point, at some place, to be determined.
Fantastic. Well, so massive shout out to Freaky Felicia there. Hopefully she'll be back in the ring as soon as possible so she can get back to doing what she does best. Next question, bud, from Liam is, what's Nathan like behind the scenes?
I'm hoping we're referring to Nathan Black. I don't know how much I can give away. For me, I have boatfuls of respect for Nathan, especially on the character side of things and as himself as a person. Like, without peeling back too much, I would say he is an incredible human being, and I have a lot of respect and time for that man. And again, wrestling's not real. We're all characters. We're all, we're all taking piss, really. At the end of the day, but yeah, he's nothing like he is on camera. But again, depends where he is and stuff like that. So hopefully, I don't get him bother. But no, lots of respect. Incredible man.
Absolutely, mate. So thank you very much, Liam, for posting those questions. If you've got any more questions, bud, guys, make sure you put them in the comments below. We'll try and get them to Axl, time depending. So, mate, we're going to jump into the mental health questions, but if that's okay with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, mate. We'll be back in 2 seconds. So, Axl, mate, first off, bud, can you share a bit about when you first started experiencing your struggles, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I remember getting diagnosed with. So I got diagnosed with anxiety, and my and anxiety caused depression. Very early on, I think I must have been about 14, 15, 16, around that time. And it was just constant feelings of down and doubt and stuff that anxiety causes, which then was causing me to be depressed. So I remember very early on getting some help with that, and then I got I got a lot of help with, so that it caused a lot of struggles with my professional sort of work life and stuff like that. and trying to explain that to businesses and stuff like that can be quite daunting. But I've had a lot of, thankfully, every business I've been in, I've had a lot of, they've been very good with the mental health side of things. So one of the jobs I worked in, they took me to go and get a mental health assessment, so they could get a better understanding of stuff, which I was totally open for. One of the jobs paid for they provided a therapist as well, so I had a few therapy sessions through work with that. And I've had time where things have gotten a little bit too much, and I've been able to go and just be like, look, I'm just going to go and have 5-10 minutes, and I've been able to go and do that. I don't know if there's a trigger point or anything like that that happened with it. I'm sure there is at some point, and I'm sure eventually someone will do some psychoanalysis on me and figure out where that stemmed from. But yeah, for me, it was around that time, and it doesn't go away. I think things just get a little bit easier sometimes. Everyone has, the good days outnumber the bad days, I'd say now. I've got a lot of good coping mechanisms, and there's a couple of bad ones that I shouldn't really do, but they work for me. And my therapist at the time said, look, if you not, it doesn't cause any harm to yourself or anyone else. So, if it works for you, stick with it. But obviously, here's some things that you can try and work on to not be as bad. Because I have a tendency to bottle things up, basically, and don't really let things out. So if I'll sit quietly and just have it in and just deal with my own thoughts and try and get on with stuff. Whereas people I know like to speak up about it and get it out there into the public, which I do on occasions, but a lot of the time, if it's something that I've been dealing with where it's like sort of a weekly thing, I would say if we were to put a time scale on it, I'll just bottle it in, just keep it in, and just plod along.
Absolutely, bud. So, how would you say that the demanding nature of professional wrestling has impacted your mental health, if at all?
I've always said I have a love-hate relationship with wrestling. So there's times where I think people go, well, why aren't I getting those shots? Why aren't I getting these opportunities? Why aren't people pushing me? Blah, 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 blah. All the negative side of things that people have those thoughts. I would assume in anything, like if you were going for a promotion at work, or, going for that manager role, let's just say, in this example, and, there's 3 or 4 of you, and one person gets it, you're going to go, well, why didn't I get it? I've been here so long, I do all this work, and someone that's been here less time than me gets it. I had a lot of that very early on in wrestling, because I thought I was putting a hell of a shift in. But recently, I've started, the last couple of years, it's now been like more about, okay, instead of feeling negative, let's try and think, well, how can we make this positive? So the positive of it is that person's done really well. They've got an opportunity. That's great. Let's be happy for them. With them is the better term, not for them. Let's be happy with them. Let's show support for them. Because I think being a nice person. We recently did a training session with Rio, who is an incredible woman. She was like, for her, wrestling needs to be a good and positive place, and you will get further, and you will, if you're you encourage people, and you big others up, and you're in locker rooms, and you're just always happy, and you're not sat there going, huh, that match was shit, they fucked that up, blah 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 blah, instead of going, okay, flopped a little bit, but carry on, we can work better on it. And I couldn't agree more. I think the landscape is getting better, but I think we definitely need to be bigging each other up more than we should be putting each other down. or else you'd be left feeling very alone and isolated when it should be a group of people that wrestling's weird to like. I know it's getting a bit more popular, but to actually do it, it's not a normal thing that people do. It's not like so. We all have one thing in common at least. Like if you're in a room full of, whether it's at training or it's at a wrestling show and you've gone by yourself, or you're booked on a show, we all have one thing in common, and that's wrestling. So you've always got something in common with someone to talk about. Not that I'm saying go around and talk to everyone and go, I love John Cena so much. It's more, we've got something in common. Let's, say hello. Let's, just be nice. So the love-hate relationship is that, but I'm taking it more now in a very positive way of thinking and not letting negative thoughts about stuff take hold. So if people are talking a little bit negative about something, I will either eject myself from it or just sort of try and take the conversation to a more positive, or just completely go off what we were talking about, because I've got no time for it, really.
Fantastic, mate. I do think it's really good that you've obviously been able to identify when what sort of like not necessarily triggers you have when it comes to being able to improve your mental health, but obviously when there's something that you don't like that is going to impact your mental health, you know exactly what to do to distance yourself from that thing. So that I think that's a really good thing, mate.
Thank you. Yeah. I think that it's sort of with just in life in general as well. It's not just the wrestling side of it. I think understanding where things are coming from, and my aspect of it, and I know it doesn't work for everyone, and I know sometimes it's a bit hard, but if you have somewhat of control of this in here, then that's all everything is. Everything's driven by the brain, basically. So if your brain's telling you, you shit, you this, pardon me, trying to sort of change the gears and change the thoughts of being like, well, if I'm having these thoughts about this, then let's try and change it to be something a little bit better. Like again, I say to myself, once you can control this, your life's a little bit easier. And I get it's not for everyone. It's just for my situation, which I say when, if I'm ever giving anyone any advice, or if they're down or anything like that, I always say, look, this works for me. You can either nod and go, yeah, thank you for that advice, and ignore it, and in your head just tell me to fuck off, or you can take it on board and try and take something from it. But end of the day, everyone's individual with it. So for me personally, telling myself, no, you're not, do this instead, or think this way, does help.
Definitely, mate. So Louise has put in another comment, bud. It says, that's the nice thing about wrestling. Everyone at shows I go to is a wrestling fan in some capacity. And I love that everyone knows everyone family like feelings at shows. Do you agree with that, bud?
Absolutely. I don't go to too many shows as a fan anymore. Like, I do have to, I'm trying to make time to buy a ticket and go, I'm just going to be a fan today and I'm just going to watch this show. Again, everyone's lovely. It's like the closest thing I can sort of compare it to is I used to go to gigs a lot, and sometimes I'd go to gigs by myself or with one other person, and you'd always end up like it was back in those days where you'd meet like 5 people and you'd have them on Facebook by the end of the night. You'd never talk to them again, but it's more that level of you've even if it was for that one night only, you've made a friend for that night, and you can all talk about stuff. You get excited together. Yeah, I do like the family aspects of sort of everyone's sort of, we're all here to enjoy this one thing. And if you're on your own, come and join us. Come and sit with us. Come and watch this. Let's talk about it. But yeah, I agree with that completely.
Fantastic, mate. Got a question here from Sledger. Who says, will we see new members of the Freak Show, or will it always be the OGs? Axl, Felicia, and Jim.
We always say we are always open for new acts to join the Freak Show. For a big part for us is we have to gel with that person. We have to get on with that person. We have to gel. We have to have the same ideas. Because again, we've took a lot of what we do with the Freak Show from actual Freak Show culture. There's some parts of it that we will not talk about or touch because it's very carny and it's very not PG. But yeah, like the family aspect of it more for us as a group is like, it's because we're all freaks. They were outcast people basically, whether it was from some form of deformity they've got or just in life getting a in front of them. But they could all find this one place and they'd all look out for each other and back each other up and all that. So for us, we do have, I believe, it's Freaky sorts all that, the acts and booking of talent side of it out. I think she's got her eyes on some people in particular, but we're never opposed to allowing people to join if they've got something that is very different and they could bring to the table.
Absolutely, mate. So I want to expand on that question. If you could bring in 2 new members, who would you bring in?
From anywhere and anything.
From anywhere, yeah, mate.
Cool. So I think the first one we would have to bring in is, because I'd probably get shot if I wasn't allowed to bring this person in. We've always said that the Boogeyman has a permanent membership, whether he knows it or not. With the Freak Show, is Freaky's favorite wrestler of all time, and I think he just fits the mold of what we do a lot. So he's got a full-time gold pass to the Freak Show. I don't know anyone else. There's some names that are springing to mind that I'd like in there, but I think I would really like to get someone that's really like extremely good, like high flyer, like aerialist. I think some form of luchador would be pretty cool to have in the group. Like a Ray Phoenix or something like that, or a Mystico. Are really good. They spring to mind immediately. I'd say Mr. Iguana, but he's stepping on my toes a little bit, so I'd have to go with someone that has that mask appeal as well, because I think that would just look really cool on like a big banner where you've got your strongman, your clown, and the ringleader, and then someone in a mask, and all that good stuff. That or someone in, like really strong, like Mark Henry would be cool to have, or the Big Show, or Andre. That's someone that's just out of this world, like a giant, basically.
Definitely. But my first thought when I asked that was possibly like a Callum Crowe.
Okay.
Just because he's quite a mysterious guy and he's really good with all that creative stuff.
Yeah.
Sledger has put the recommendation of Charles Crowley.
I think that's probably makes the most sense. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, it's all make believe, playing fantasy booker, I guess is the term. But, he's sort of, I feel like the minute Crowley's on his own path, doing his own thing, whether or not he needs a gang of freaks behind him, who knows? But yeah, I think Crowley would be very interesting to put in the group.
Definitely, mate. So go back to the mental health questions, bud. Has been any specific challenges related to mental health that you've faced so far? So, and I'll give you some examples: performance anxiety, pressure, travel, body imagery, and social media scrutiny.
A big one for me is I have body dysmorphia a lot. So I constantly see myself as like, I know I'm a larger boy anyway, but I sort of see myself as a lot bigger than I am in terms of fat. Even when I'll have days where I'll have a really good pump on, and I'm like, yeah, I look really good. I've done a good shift in the gym and stuff like that. And I've been clean eating as good as I can do for a long part of it. That's another thing. I'm going on a side tangent and I'll come back. I'll remember it. For me, I think dieting was a big caused a lot of. I got really depressed when I dieted once. Like, I went proper strict, like proper clean, lean foods for like a month and a half, and I just got really depressed. I was so down, and then I remember just thinking, well, if I have less of the foods that make me happy, then I can even it out. So that's what I do now. I don't stop myself from eating things. I've done certain things, so I've cut. I've cut sugar mostly out of like stuff that isn't in food. So like sugar-free drinks, I'll have water, obviously. A lot of that stuff I've sort of took little steps to be like, right, so I can remove that bit. I won't remove it fully out of food because I think some things need it in. Um, just a bit cleaner with certain aspects. Um, but it doesn't mean like if I fancy eating this. So if I get halfway through the day and I go, I right fancy having like a pizza later, I'll just go, okay, so you'll have less of this to then have that because I still calorie count with stuff. And then snacks is a big one because of the ADHD. I don't know if it is linked with it or not, but I get bored quite quick, and I found a way when I first started working was to snack to get me through it, to stimulate my brain, to be doing something physical so I can concentrate, which isn't good. So I limit what I have in the house. So even if it's like I fancy getting, I don't know, I never have them in the house. So like Doritos, for example, I will then force myself to walk a far way to go and get them, to then walk back, to then instead of just going to the cupboard and having a family bag and scoffing them down in an evening, which I used to do quite a lot. But yeah, back to the other thing. So yeah, right, the body dysmorphia does happen quite a lot where like some days I will be able to look at myself and go, yeah, I can see the difference you've put in and stuff like that. And then literally, I could even be the same day where I've got home or I've caught myself in a certain angle and I go, no, you're still in a terrible shape and all this and that, which is, I don't know how I could fix that, but it's just something that I'm working with. And again, I've got support from people close to me in my close circle that like are supportive and go, no, you can tell that there's a very real, like, I don't want people to be like, oh no, you're doing really good. I'm like, just tell me straight up. And they're like, no, straight up, you're putting some work in and you can tell there's a difference on you. So that's a good thing. I think that's the only thing that's sort of got in the way with wrestling. Like for me, like no matter how depressed I am or how much of a shit day I'm having, I will always make time to try and get down to some form of wrestling, whether it's like as a show or at training, because it's an escape. For free at Pursuit for 3 hours, it's an escape from the real life, and I can do this and then deal with that later. So I think the performance side of it and actual wrestling itself doesn't necessarily, the mental health stuff doesn't necessarily affect it directly. It's more the other side of things that would then affect it. But yeah, I think, and we've all probably had times where anxiety and depression's probably got in the way where you're like, I'm not good enough to do this, I'm not going to do it, blah, 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 blah. And your performance has probably suffered a little bit from it. But, nothing that's made me go, no, I'm not going to wrestle. I'm not going to do this.
Absolutely, bud. So would you say that there's been any particular moments or periods in your career so far where your struggles have felt particularly overwhelming at all?
Um, uh, Not to a point where I'm not able to control it. Let's
Mhm.
say, like, um, there's been days where it has gotten quite bad, where I'm like, I don't want to see anyone. What if I hurt someone? What if I do this and this and this? And because at the end of the day, we are, you know, you are looking after someone else. Like, their safety is in your hands, which can get a bit daunting at times, especially when you don't really care about yourself and how what happens to you, that sort of thing. I always think it overcomes when someone else is involved with it, and I think that a lot of the time is what helps me get through. And I'm quite confident in the terms of I've got quite a good control and quite a good lid over my mental health. I don't like using the word issues, but my mental health as a whole, I've got um, quite a good control over it. Um, but nothing too much now, or nothing stands out particularly that um, is like a red flag where I go, okay, yeah, that was something that caused this. Because again, for it's happy, so it's an escape. So I tend to leave all that stuff at the door, and I'll pick it up on my way out.
Okay, mate, fantastic. So, obviously, when you're going through possibly a dark spell or anything like that, or a bad spell, if you're having a bad day, what sort of support system do you mostly rely on, whether that's both within and outside of wrestling?
Um, I'd say mostly like my partner and my friends and stuff like that, my close circle of people that I'm very open with, like to a lot of people. Um, Obviously, I like to talk about. I think it's important to show your mental health. That's why I'm doing this episode. When you approached it with this, I was like, yeah, absolutely. I think that's a very good thing to do it for. Um, Normally, I like to keep my cards close to my chest. Um, Nothing more than I've had it used against me at times before, and I'm like, well, that's I have to have a lot of trust to open up quite a lot to people, but um I've got a really, really great circle of friends that I can open up to no matter what. And I've they all deal with it a little bit differently. So I've got one friend that is like really sort of will sort of want to talk about it and sort of like you get it off the chest and be a bit more serious with it. And I've got other friends that deal with it through laughter, sort of what I do. So they'll try and make you laugh instead and get you through it, which is very, very good. That partner's brilliant for it. Um, and then as well, I think I've got things, like it sounds so like it's so simple, but like putting on like your favorite film or one of your favorite TV shows, or listening to one of your favorite albums all the way through. Um, that is also a good coping for it as well. I think that helps a lot. I've done that quite a lot recently, where I'm like, right, this isn't shifting. Let's put Jurassic Park on, and you'll sit and watch that all the way through, and by the end of it, you'll probably feel a bit better. And I make sure that I, you know, go and have something to eat that I enjoy as well. Just things that you enjoy should be used to help you get out of these certain things. And I get sometimes some people are like, it gets a bit too much for them, and at that point, you can't, you can only do so much for people. Um, but for myself, that's normally what I do to try and get out of sticky situations.
Definitely, mate. So, for anyone that's watching, whether they be a wrestler or if it's just a fan watching, um, is there any advice that you can give to that person who might be struggling with the mental health and feels though they can't talk?
Absolutely. It's so it so it seems very counterintuitive, but I think talking about it is so important. And you'll have someone in your life that you trust enough to go to. So for me, for the longest time, I found it very hard to open up to my family about um, the mental health issues I was having. So I was talking to friends. I was, speaking to the doctors and the GP about that sort of stuff that can also help as much as they can. I will definitely think if you are at a point where it is really, really bad, just go and speak to your GP if you're old enough to go and sort that out by yourself and do all that adulting stuff. But it's so important for me, especially since I like to bottle things up, and I've done so since I was young. You just got to talk to people, whether it's someone that you trust but you don't speak to a lot. That's message them, because they're not going to have any judgment. And I say that to a lot of people that I come across, and if they are having like a rough time, I'm like, look, you can come and offload to me, and it doesn't matter what I think, because at the end of the day, I'm not close enough to you to, make anything of a difference. It's sort of like an agony aunt that you used to get, where you could write in your questions and then someone would write back to you to be like, it's okay. Um, but yeah, I think talking that's the first step. It seems so daunting, but once you start doing it, it becomes easier and easier and easier. Um, Obviously, there's some things that you won't tell certain people, or certain things that you keep inside and stuff like that. But talking, whether that's to a professional, to a GP, which I think is the go-to, you should definitely go and do that. Whether it's a therapist that you've got, that you've paid for, whether it's your friends, your family, or whatever. Um, Most of the time, you will feel like they're not bothered about this, or they'll think I'm silly. I can guarantee you, most of the time, they will be so thankful that you've brought it towards them, and feel happier that you've trusted them enough to sort of offload any thoughts that you were having that may have been, not necessarily darker, or whether it's dark, or you've just got like an anxiety or a worry. Like, no matter how big or small, just speak to someone. And again, I know it seems really difficult when they can't feel like they can, but honestly, give it a go. Your GP is probably the best route to go, because you can get opening up to it. But if you'd rather have friends, speak to people.
Definitely, mate. So, for anyone that is watching that is struggling with mental health and feels as though they can't talk about it, I have put a few links in the description for anyone that needs to reach out, including the Samaritans. There's also a link in there for a helpline that helps with addiction as well, because addiction is also part of mental health.
Yes.
So, so Axel, do you believe that there is a way for the industry of professional wrestling that can better support its performers' mental well-being at all?
Um, yes. I think there's always room for improvement, especially with this subject. So whether I'm sure that the people that are contracted um will have the best in terms of, like, if you need, they can provide therapists and stuff like that, um, which is great. I think more of an independent level, it sort of it just speak to your talent. Just make sure, just go around, just make sure people are all right, just checking on them. And I try and do it, not every day, because it gets a little bit too much, but I always try and make sure I have, because if we've got a group chat for my close circle, I will try and message them all individually, just to see how they are, because I think that's also very, very important, just checking how people are, because you never know what that's going to do for them. Like, if they are feeling a bit down, it's like you've opened the conversation to be like, tell me what you want to get off your chest. And then, sometimes that's the hardest part, is actually starting that conversation with it. But yeah, it's as simple as just asking, how are you? I think that's something that everyone can do from now. You know what I mean? It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't take much effort, and it's free. The most important thing, it's free. You can just literally turn around to, when your workers come in and say hello, hi, how are you? Go to a quiet, like catch them on their own if you want, and just be like, yeah, how you doing? Everything all right? And anything different I can do for you? It's free, like, and it don't cost. Just do it. Just speak to people. Just ask how they are.
Absolutely, mate. So as we start to wind down, mate, what role has wrestling played in your overall mental health journey? Do you believe that it's been a source of strength? Has it been a challenge, or would you say it's been a bit of both?
Probably a bit of both. There's challenging days with it. I think there's a lot of people, a lot of the big timers from the past and stuff that said it's a very isolated business, and it can be very isolating, especially if you're traveling a lot on the weekends and you're traveling like 3 or 4 hours, and you work through the week, and you don't get much time to spend with maybe partners or families and stuff like that, and it could get quite a lot, and it can be quite a strain. I know I've had past relationships where people don't quite understand wrestling, and they're like, well, why can't we do something this weekend? It's like, oh, because I'm going to go and do this, because this is what I like to do, but you're not getting paid for it, or you're not there, so why are you going to it, not doing this with me? Because I've worked all week, this is my hobby, you knew about this, but it can be quite isolating. But there's beauties to it as well, of you meet people, you can make, I've made my best friends in wrestling, so for me, I cannot, as much as it's shit, and it can proper get on you at times, the friendship that I've made from it, I can't, it's just so good. Like, if wrestling was taken away, I'd still have my friends, but it's like, what I sometimes think, like, what if you never decided to do it? Like, where would you be? You wouldn't have this close circle of friends, or you wouldn't have experienced this. So I think I'd be in a worse off place if I didn't start wrestling. Even though there is some dark sides to it, but again, the good outweighs that now, and take things as positively as you can. So yeah.
Fantastic, mate. So coming down to the last two questions, but we always like to finish on two lighter questions, as it can get a bit heavy, this type of thing. So, what are your aspirations and goals within professional wrestling for the future?
For me now, I need to sort of my own next goals, because I've always got mini goals. Like, obviously the main goal is I'd love to work for WWE. I think that's everyone's main goal. That does this. But my next mini goals are sort of to step up what I do. So try and make it onto a True Grit. Try and make it onto maybe a Riot Cabaret, maybe a North, maybe a Progress at some point. Just try and make it to that next level of independent wrestling. Work in the States is another big one that I've got on my list, that I see as a sort of a more smaller. It's a bigger goal, obviously, but working in the States, working some bigger names that I look up to. So I know we got brought up earlier, but I'd love to work a match with Crowley. I'd love to work a match with Coach Liam. Work with Nathan. There's loads of people on the scene that I just want to learn under and have these matches with. So I guess, to answer your question that I've very wombled on about, just to jump up the level in shows and get myself a little bit more busy on the weekend. I'd like to at least have one, a couple of shows a month is somewhere that I'd be very comfortable with. Just get more busy with it.
Absolutely, bud. So last question, mate. And I posted this question first to Steve Dean, referee, a couple months back, and he sort of like a mini meltdown when I asked him this question. So I'm hoping for like a similar reaction from yourself. I think I know who one of the people is going to be on this list, but who is on your Mount Rushmore of wrestlers?
This is so hard because it depends what aspect you take into it, right? So I ask this a lot. So you can have overall greatest of all time. So what does that entail? Is that who made the most money? Is it who was the most popular? Is it who's the best work ethic? Because if it's all there, it's very different. But my own personal one, I think Wyatt has to go on there as 100%. Cena's always on one of mine because I think he is without a doubt the most popular wrestler in the world and always will be, I think, because he's very, everyone knows John Cena. He's great. Like, he could work with anyone. He's got a lot of respect. Like, I think when you were younger and stuff like that, you go, "Oh, John Cena's not cool. He wears bright t-shirts and jeans. He's not cool." But he is. He's incredible. Like that, knowing the stuff I know now, and the amount that he feels like we should do this now in the ring is incredible. His work ethic is unmatched as well. So Cena's on there. It's again, this is where I get stuck because it's the final two that I always get stuck with. I think you have to put, as much as he gets some slack and got a lot of slack, I think you have to arguably put Hogan on the Mount Rushmore because, again, he was the Cena before Cena. Like, he was doing the movies, he was everywhere. Everyone knew of Hulk Hogan, and I don't think wrestling would be in the position it is without Hulk Hogan. Again, Terry's a person, Hulk Hogan's a character, and the character himself is the, has to be up there as helping the business. I'm going to go off a little bit and go for someone that inspired like a lot of people in terms of like the next generation and stuff like that. So I'd have to put someone like Styles, maybe Styles or Alex Shelley. I always get a bit crisscross with that because I think those two in particular helped inspire a lot of people moving forward, like the next generation and stuff like that. Just with being innovative and a bit more of a realistic body size, and the indies were their playground. So maybe half and half the face for that one, to put that at the end. So yeah, Bray, Cena, Hogan, and then an amalgamation of Styles and Alex Shelley, I guess.
Fantastic, mate. Could not argue with that one at all, bud. So, guys, that is it for today's episode of the Unseen Battles. I want to say a massive thank you to Axl for coming on today. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to him. Make sure that you go and follow him on Instagram. You can either scan the code just above my head or go into Instagram itself and just search for @Axl The Klown, spelled AXLTHEKLOWN, all one word. Make sure you go and give him a follow. Make sure you go check out PPW as well. Fantastic organization. Axl, I always like to end this in this standard way. I will, if there's anything you want to plug, if there's anything you want to say, anything you want to get off your chest, whatsoever, mate, feel free. And that is what I will end the stream.
Lovely. So obviously, thank you for having me. It's been very good, and I think it's very important. Again, mental health is a big thing for me. So having stuff like this, a platform for people to talk about it and maybe people to join in and listen to other people and try and get some advice from it is very, very good. So I appreciate what you do. For me, yeah, follow me on Instagram. It's probably the best place to see what I'm keeping up to. I don't like Twitter. I will use it, but I don't like it. So yeah, and Facebook's a bit redundant, but everything that goes on Facebook is from my Instagram. So just follow me on Instagram. We've got merch dropping soon. We're going to do an announcement post for that. It's probably some point before the end of the month for pre-orders on that. So keep an eye out for that. Follow the rest of the Freak Show. Freaky Felicia and Gentleman Jim Maguire. We do have a Freak Show Instagram account now, which is for everyone. So you'll see everyone's updates on there. I think that is at the Freak Show Wrestling. I could be wrong, or one word, but you'll find it somewhere if you do a little bit of digging. Yeah, that's about it, really.
Fantastic, mate. So, guys, there we are. Thank you so much, Axl. Thanks, everyone, for watching. And yeah, hope to see you soon. And we'll see you on the next episode.